Ladies and gentlemen, now today we're going to talk about, are we losing the fun in Marvel Contest of Champions? Because I feel like there's been a lot of stuff this year that hasn't been a giant win from Kabam, that, doesn't leave you coming away with like, oh, I really enjoyed that, like I can't wait to play the game again tomorrow. And I think there was like a bit of that in January with Bullseye not being the most fun champion to fight. There are counters with evade counters and mutant champions, but again, unless you have like specific counters for Bullseye, it's a lot of like, baiting out the special one, trying to deal with that, and then waiting a little bit for the evade after as well and doing it again. Bullseye like essentially is like a more punishing skill version of Mysterio, and I hate fighting Mysterio, man. So a lot of people had some angst and we're just like glad for January to be over, so they did not need to fight Bullseye again. And then on top of that, last month as well, we had like a very messy debut of raids. It's very confusing, the whole raid system, and a lot to organize, across the Alliance, multiple battle groups, getting everybody used to bringing in their role, making sure, they not only went down the correct lane, but also picked up a buff that would synergize with their character, and also that they brought in a character that was good and viable enough. So there was just a lot of pain and a lot of like learning issues with the first round of raids, not to mention like the block penetration bosses at the back just being like crazy, would one tap you, would root you and like crit into your block, so you kind of had to play pretty much perfectly toward the back. So yeah, raids and Bullseye, I think, left January with like a lot of frustration kind of brewing under the surface, and there are good changes coming to raids. I'm excited to see what they do next round. A lot of positive stuff there, so at least on that front they are moving forward. But we've just had Winter of Woe, and Winter of Woe is it's just not fun. Like, the objectives are not made to be fun. The boss is not made to be fun. The boss is made to be very, very sweaty and very, very punishing. This Absorbing Man has 1.2 million health, absolutely colossal regeneration, massive damage mitigation. He can like crit you through block and hit you through block if he gets in his enhanced Uru form for like 100,000 damage, and he's like constantly going unstoppable as well. His healing can't be reversed. He's got the brute force node. There's just all sorts of things going on. Personally, for me, it's really the unstoppable that makes this fight like so unenjoyable to fight, just because like you can't get into like a good rhythm. There are points where again you could like heavy counter a special attack, but you can't do that safely because he is unstoppable. So it's just not a way to deal with certain mechanics like his crazy regeneration that's going on, or like transfer the Bane node safely sometimes when that improved Uro is up. So the Absorbing Man is just not fun. Like, I didn't walk away from the video I made yesterday, and also playing a little bit after, like having a good time. And I'm not the best player. I'm very far from the best player, but I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so excited to go back in and just try that again. I'm like, I'm glad that was over. I'm really not looking forward to when I have to do this with even more restrictive champions like Robot and also Sandman. Sandman like shouldn't be too bad, but the Robot tag looks like absolute hell. I watched Nick 136's highlight video. He did like 20 revives Nimrod. The regeneration at the end of the fight is crazy, dude. It's like 20, I think 25k ticks. He's healing like 40, 50,000 every single second. So yeah, it's just absolutely stupid, the combination of nodes that exist on Absorbing Man, that for anybody that isn't like super sweating in Battlegrounds or like very high tier Alliance War. Again, you haven't really had that much experience fighting Absorbing Man, just generally speaking across the game. He's not like a super common character that you run into very often. He's still relatively new, and we're in this very large, very complicated game now. We've got about 260, 270 characters, and they're just being thrown at you, and you've got to memorize, special animations, what they're immune to, the interactions, certain things you can do to counter and shut off their abilities. So, there's a lot to learn and a lot to retain. So yeah, I feel like this challenge, again, for, the super sweaty, like top 100, top 1,000 players, I think that they really enjoy something like this to do. I think something like this for Metal Sonic Dude is a great way to really showcase like just how well he can control like super complicated fights and really like flex that muscle. But also I think the way that this is kind of designed and like put on the banner, and has been set up with the rewards as well to really try and drag everybody into it is just kind of creating an experience that's just frustrating a lot of people. I genuinely think, it's good to have difficult content, but just because people are at the Paragon and Valiant level doesn't mean they're like the sweatiest hardcore gamers that want to learn how to play every fight absolutely perfectly. And I think there should be like at least a couple of different tracks to make fights that are just a bit more enjoyable, that aren't gimmicky as well. I kind of just want fair, enjoyable fights, well balanced, have good tags to them. And then I also think there should be like, super sweaty tags that have stuff like rare Battlegrounds emotes or super flex titles or player profiles or certain relics, stuff that the majority of people can go, yeah, I don't really care about that. That's not like core to my roster, core to my title progression. It's just like a super little bonus thing that's like a nice little flex to have. And I think, they just need to think about where players are at skill-wise and what players are going to find fun as well. Because for the majority of the community, this just isn't fun. Like, people aren't having a good time in this, and you can really see it across the forums, across the YouTube comments. I haven't read as many like, I think it's time for me to quit the game, I'm just not having fun with the content that Kabam are putting out recently comments in a very, very long time. And I think it's just, very important to acknowledge that roster size and progression does not accurately equal skill level. It's just a test of how long you've played the game, how much you've grinded, and you can't put people through super tight loops with such kind of large incentives, or it's just going to make them frustrated, and then they're just not going to enjoy playing the game, and then they're just going to stop playing it. So I feel like there just needs to be a bit of a change with this stuff moving forward, to really like shift the focus back on like making content fun and exciting to play, because there are some really good matchups and champions with Winter of Woe that you can't, or there's not really any point using, because the way that this event is structured is, the event rewards are all based off the solo events. And this one is, if you kill the boss once, you get 1 point, but if you do all the objectives, you get like 3 additional points every 2 weeks. And the big rewards, the stuff that a lot of people are after, and, a lot of like sweaty grinders and stuff kind of feel like they need to get, is the 18.1, because that gives you, the deathless piece of King Groot. And also for Paragon players, just when this event was announced, was kind of a way of like, oh, okay, I maybe can't do 100% Necropolis, like I don't have the units stored up for that, but maybe I can do some of these challenges every single week, and via my own skills and roster kind of work my way up toward, being able to start forming some tier 4 alpha, just so I can, get Valiant hopefully a little bit later this year. And I think just because this Absorbing Man is such like a rough start to that, just a lot of dreams got crushed yesterday when like seeing what this Absorbing Man was like to fight with the very constrained objectives that you gave. Because in each one, there's kind of like 2-3 champions that are kind of viable. Robots doesn't really have like a great one. Because yeah, if you can use any champion, again, this Absorbing Man like is much easier to deal with, but there's also like not that much point to it, because in terms of the rewards that you get, again, you're not moving toward the big stuff. Like, in terms of the challenge that they've laid out, it's really restrictive on, like, you need to go down this path and beat the boss this way, or else you're not really going to move forward to the event progression there. So yeah, doing it with a robot, dude. Oh my gosh. I saw the Metal Sonic dude Guillotine 2099 solo, super sweaty. But I also saw Nick136 just kind of like chugging through this earlier today with Nimrod. And it was painful, man. It was super painful. I think it took him like, Nick is an exceptional player, and it took him like 20 revives to do with like a fully boosted Nimrod. And Sinister 6, again, if you got Sandman, you get the solo. Shocker, very difficult, very, very difficult solo, but it is possible there. And there are a few options like Hulk, She-Hulk, and also Joe Fixit for the Gamma tag. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I also feel like, and I don't know if this is shared, let me know in the comments section below, but I feel like there's been too much gimmicky content for too long. That's just really boring as well. This is like opposite end of the spectrum to like the Clown Fiesta content. there's just gimmicky content and there's just too much of it and it's not fun. And this is like mainly in like the event quest. You know, new event quest is like, okay, you bring in a skilled champion and you apply a bleed and you get 35% more damage, and then you get 10 bleeds and you're dealing 350% more damage and the fight's over. And you've just got like that, but for all the different classes, and it's just like every single month. And there's a lot of that in like Act 7, Act 8, just in various forms across various nodes as well. But there's a lot of gimmick stuff that just kind of doesn't feel very based or weighted. And it doesn't feel like that fun or that satisfying to actually get through. It's nice on occasion, and like occasionally when you have that, it serves as like a bit of a break from other content. But like, there's just so much of it, and there's been so much of it kind of pumped into the game, and Incursions is basically like a giant gimmick mode as well, that it just starts to not become fun. Like, there's just no satisfaction, or very little satisfaction I tend to find from those fights. So we're kind of just in this weird spot where, you know, it appears to be like either like gimmick content, where you get like 300, 1,000% more attack, or you get like super giga sweaty try hard. You've got 7 different nodes, you've got to do an excess amount of reading and theory crafting. There's like very confined objectives in terms of, you know, what you can use and bring in, so you got to do some deep theory crafting there. And I just feel like there's this big gap in the middle for just like fun fights. There are so many amazing characters in this game that on the base of them, like, they're really tricky to fight. Like, Absorbing Man's a difficult defender. If you make him like, give him 1.2 million health, like, he's tricky for the average person. And you know, I'd like to just see kind of content where fun is at the forefront and focus, where it feels like a good challenge, and it's not just like all of these nodes stacked on top of each other, clown fiesta, but it's also not complete like I'm gonna power up to 1,000% attack. Just kind of like a well-balanced fight that has, you know, some interesting counters, maybe some just like really fun and cheesy interactions of how you can deal with certain things. And I think that's where like a lot of the enjoyment lies in Marvel Contest of Champions, because I think when you're having the most fun is when you're like just absolutely pumping a boss. You know, you can be super aggressive playing, you've got like a few mechanics, a few timers that you have to play around, but like everything kind of feels sharp, snappy. You can go in again, you can just keep learning and improving, and you're just not having to deal with like awkward crossovers in timers, and very like restrictive champions that you can bring in that don't kind of give you the tools to kind of navigate around the challenges that you've got in front of you. So it's difficult. There's no easy answer to anything moving forward, but I think Kabam just need to, you know, whenever they have a new piece of content, just kind of still go for that sweaty mode and make a really challenging thing, and, you know, have that have very small rewards that are specifically tailored to people that want to flex, that want to play at the highest level. The challenge is still there. You get like some limited edition relic, or, you know, an emote or a title or a badge, but there's still like a heap of people in like Paragon and Valiant that just don't have fun doing these challenges. And we just want like fun content to play that we can get excited to log in, that's accessible for the roster and kind of like average skill level of the person at that. And then, you know, still have that sweaty like super hell mode, super challenge content there, but kind of, I think, at least for me as well, just try and stay away a little bit from too much gimmick stuff, because again, I feel a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of gimmicky things that we've had in the last few years as well. But let me know your thoughts. Again, these are just my thoughts and feelings and kind of what I've been reading all across. And I think, you know, it's definitely an interesting moment in the game's history where people, I feel, are just getting a little bit like tired and disgruntled of not really having like kind of good based content to kind of like sink their champions into. And just have a little bit of fun, because that's what we want to do, man. In this game, we want to get new characters that we love, and we want to blast bosses that like a great time, really fun, but also feel really meaningful and have kind of good rewards relevant to our progression level. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. If you did enjoy me ramble for a little bit, smash that like button, take care, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.